Give yourself to the dark side.
Cling, 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 cling. Ah! Cling, 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 cling. Ah! Awoo! What's up, everyone? Welcome to TYT. Anna Kasparian and Ben Glebe with you in studio, in the flesh. Ben, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing okay. Doing okay. Doing better. Was a little sick last weekend.
You were.
And week, yeah.
You were anticipating Halloween and you couldn't get your head wrapped around it.
Yes. Happy Halloween. Yay, everybody loves it.
Your favorite holiday, you can tell it in Nana's voice.
Yeah, it's just too much pressure. Okay, Halloween is for the creatives. So like today during our production meeting, you've got Ben Glebe, comedian, creative. You've got one of our producers, Taylor Ellis, who's also very much a creative, talking about how much they love Halloween. For people like me, I'm creative in some ways, not creative in the whole like dressing up costume way.
Saddest thing I've ever heard. As soon as we're off the air, I'm going home, firing up the fog machine to spook out the kids as they come for candy, and then going to parties tonight.
What do people do with their Halloween costumes after spending too much money on their Halloween costumes, right? They just like hoard Halloween costumes.
I have a box or two in the shed.
Of course, no, this is the American way.
I call it the American dream.
We love clutter. We love to buy stuff we're never going to use again.
That's true.
What a waste.
Yeah, you're right. I was gonna wear a costume on air today, and then in the production meeting, you made your views on the holiday very clear, and I put my devil horns back into the closet.
Dude, it's so funny that you say that, because I had this temptation to like hit you up and just let you know, listen, we're a professional establishment here, okay? We're gonna do a professional show. Please don't come in wearing a costume.
You guys should have told me that years ago. It's a little late for that now for me.
But yes, everyone else obviously enjoy Halloween after you watch the full show today, because we've got a lot prepared for you, including some international news. We're gonna give you the election results out of Brazil. Lots of good news there. Although Republicans here in the United States are trying to screw that up. We're gonna talk about why there seems to be a disconnect among voters who A, accept that democracy in America is at risk, and B, don't think it's the most important election issue to vote on. So we'll have a discussion about that. In the second hour, Wosny Lambre will be joining to talk about a lot of other news, including a pretty tragic story out of Seoul, South Korea over the weekend, involving some of the Halloween celebrations there. So we'll fill you in on that. And bonus episode, probably my favorite part of the show today, where we will read you creepy quotes from children. All right.
I've heard them twice and I get the chills every time, so stick around for that for sure.
I love them, they crack me up.
I won't be there, I'll be hiding under the desk.
All right, well, before we get to any of that, why don't we start off with a lot of good news coming out of Brazil.
Celebration on the streets of Sao Paulo and a sense of relief. They predicted a tight race and it was a nail-biter to the very end.
I feel free, relieved, not only for the Brazilian people, but for the whole planet, for the Amazon, for the democracy, for the human rights. So we are very happy.
Leftists in Brazil are certainly celebrating following the ouster of right-wing authoritarian President Jair Bolsonaro, the so-called Trump of Brazil, and the election of leftist former President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. He was elected to replace Bolsonaro, meaning that he gets to serve as president second time around. And this is after he was made a political prisoner by Lula da Silva conspiring with a judge in Brazil in the last presidential election. Now, this was the runoff election. So they had the first round that indicated that neither one of them had the majority necessary to win outright. So they went off to the runoffs, and Lula da Silva luckily did win. Now, he won 50.90% of the votes versus Bolsonaro's 49.10%, with 99.98% of the vote counted by Sunday night. It was the first time an incumbent president failed to win re-election in the 34 years of Brazil's modern democracy. So that's really a testament to how unpopular Bolsonaro really was for a number of different reasons. His handling of COVID happened to be one of them. They had upward of 700,000 people who died from the virus under his leadership. What he did in decimating the Amazon rainforest also infuriated people. Lula's victory was in part thanks to a broad coalition, though, from communists to centrists, something unheard of here in the United States, as the Brazilian electorate sought stability after Bolsonaro's volatile term, which was marked by clashes with the courts and a pandemic that killed more people than anywhere but the United States. So we're still number one, Ben.
Yes, thank goodness.
Yeah.
We finally are on top again. What a sad statistic to be able to be on top of. I mean, it is so interesting, this story, and so hopeful in many ways for the world that we can at least see a chance to come back from the brink of these authoritarian, far right, very dangerous to the future of the world and to democracies everywhere kind of governments. I mean, the parallels between Bolsonaro and Trump he's not just called that for jokes and because that's the best his hair's ever looked. Often it is combed down Trump style, but it's just in so many parallels. The number of accusations that he was able to avoid because he classified documents for up to 100 years while he was president. The fact that he was able to squelch a lot of calls for investigations into him because he appointed his own attorney general in Brazil, which always in the past had been done just by the federal prosecutors choosing their top chief, and he just changed that precedent and was able to change all of that. The fact that he was able to mismanage COVID so much like Trump did here and lead to the #2 number of deaths for any country in the planet. The fact that he, like you said, has been decimating the future of our planet, just straight up. There's an incredible system in place in Brazil that gives alerts when trees are burned down that he just chose to wholesale ignore. And finally there's a chance, and it shows you how weird the world is and how weird the things are in Brazil, that while it does seem that largely Lula might have been framed, and still a president who was in prison, sentenced to 20+ years and only served about 2 years of them before having the conviction thrown out because the judge was apparently colluding with the prosecutors. But that's their best hope. And many people across Brazil are like, thank goodness we have somebody back who's not great also, but at least better on the issues and maybe not more.
Yeah, I mean, Lula da Silva was the leader who was essentially responsible for like children in Brazil being lifted out of poverty, millions of Brazilians being lifted out of poverty. I mean, he has and had an economic plan that really spoke to indigenous people in Brazil, people who had been living in poverty in Brazil. He actually decreased deforestation considerably under his first stint as president of Brazil, and he's planning on doing the same in his new stint. Although it's gonna be a lot more difficult because the government in Brazil is much more divided today than it was during his previous presidency. And I wanna get to that in just a moment. But before we finish kind of summing up Bolsonaro's leadership, if you can call it that, one of the other similarities that Bolsonaro has with Donald Trump is election denialism. He, as far as I've read so far, he has yet to concede. There are members of his right-wing party who have essentially noted that Lula has in fact won and Bolsonaro has in fact lost. But Bolsonaro himself, as we talk about this story at this very moment, has yet to concede. Now, without any evidence, by the way, the president, meaning Bolsonaro, has criticized the nation's electronic voting machines, sound familiar, as rife with fraud, and suggested he might not accept loss, much like former President Donald Trump. Many of his supporters vowed to take to the streets at his command. And that just shows that there are some pretty devastating similarities, not only with Bolsonaro and Trump, but the right-wing electorate in Brazil with the right-wing electorate here in the United States.
And if I can chime in on that really quickly, one maybe notable difference we're seeing just in the first 24 hours since this that also is maybe hopeful for a way that the planet can start rejecting these election deniers and these truth deniers that are a complete cancer on the world. I mean, there is no way to have any sense of order, no matter where you are politically, if we don't honor results, if we don't honor facts that come out of elections. And it seems as though, even though they were talking a big game, a lot of his supporters on the right in Brazil leading up to the election, as soon as it was called, most of the detractors, even those who were questioning the truth leading up to it and saying they might not accept the results, are saying they're accepting the results. And so it's looking like Bolsonaro may not have the support to even contest it, which hopefully will lead to him conceding in the days to come.
Yeah, and it's concerning that the election was as close as it was. Now, politicians in America should take note of Lula's campaign message, particularly Democratic politicians who wait till the final hour, if that, to like dive into discussions about what they would do for the economy, how they're different from Republicans. Lula's stump speech revolved around expanding services for the poor, which he did deliver on in his first term as president, including more social welfare payments, a higher minimum wage, and programs to feed and house more people. To pay for it, he said he would raise taxes on the rich, but also simply increase government spending. And I wanted to go to this final video of Lula during his acceptance speech. Let's take the lower third down for this shot. Let's watch.
Porque eu me considero
cidadão que teve processo de ressurreição na política brasileira, porque tentaram me enterrar vivo e eu estou aqui. Estou aqui para governar esse país numa situação muito difícil, mas eu tenho fé em Deus que com a ajuda do povo nós vamos encontrar uma saída para que esse país volte a viver democraticamente, harmonicamente, e a gente possa inclusive restabelecer a paz entre as famílias, entre os divergentes, para que a gente possa construir o mundo que nós precisamos e o Brasil.
Now, he has the right policy ideas. At the same time, he's referencing how difficult it will be to accomplish some of those goals, considering the divisive nature of politics in Brazil. Very similar. There are parallels to what we're seeing here in the United States as well. For instance, while Bolsonaro has been ousted, it's important to remind you that his party, members of his right-wing party, hold the most seats in Congress, and a powerful centrist bloc controls both the House and the Senate. So that is likely going to be an obstacle for Lula da Silva. But he did accomplish some pretty incredible things under his leadership before, including reducing deforestation under his watch by 80%. And what Bolsonaro had done to the rainforest, the Amazon rainforest under his leadership was pretty devastating. As much as 17% of the rainforest gone. Bolsonaro gutted regulations pertaining to illegal logging. He did all sorts of things that essentially loosened environmental protections for the Amazon rainforest. So in terms of anyone living in another country who thinks like, why do I care about the elections in Brazil? You should care because the leader of Brazil has a pretty significant say over what happens to the Amazon rainforest at a time when the climate emergency is really front and center. We're already seeing the consequences of the climate emergency and the impact that right-wing authoritarian leaders have had on the Amazon rainforest.
Absolutely, and how it more directly affects us here. I mean, most of our rainwater comes from the Amazon rainforest. It obviously it travels over, and the amount of trees in Brazil are twice the amount of trees in all of America. Not to mention it's the ecosystem for so many of the essential species that create the ecosystem that makes life on Earth possible. You never know the consequences when more and more species die out, as opposed to when the rainforest was on fire and burning at an insane rate during Bolsonaro's term. He turned down aid from the international community. Macron and France put together not even a huge package, but it was like $15 million to try to help stop it. And he turned it down and said, oh, it's because they want to own a piece of the rainforest for themselves. It's literally just aid during a crisis time. No one said, if you take this, we get a little swath of land as well.
Right.
It was just to help planet Earth. And this person would rather stir up conspiracy theories about colonialism from a country. France isn't taking anybody over, okay? France is not doing anything to take anybody's land. They're just trying to be arrogant and maybe help stop the rainforest being on fire. And this is the kind of person that you have. And instead, it's so nice to see somebody like Lula that comes in, and even in that clip that we just showed, says that, or the quote that you read, I think rather, that says that instead, that he will be raising taxes on the rich, but also will just be spending more. And we always see here in America, we don't have the money to help our social programs, to expand spending there when needed, to help people in need. But when we need any unlimited amount of defense spending, we just generate the money out of nowhere. It's about time we generate some money out of nowhere to help the common person in this world that needs it much more than defense contractors.
No, 100%. I mean, there was already tens of billions of dollars in military aid sent over to Ukraine with no debate, right?
Yeah, over $50 billion
already.
Yeah.
And Congress is considering yet another $50 billion military aid package to Ukraine in January. So we'll see where it goes with that money. But I don't bring that up to engage in a debate about whether or not we should help Ukraine. I bring that up because clearly when our government wants to spend the money, they have no problem doing it. There's no debate, there's no talk about a Senate legislative filibuster. No, we got to funnel taxpayer money over to military contractors?
And it's
hell yeah.
every
no
single
debate.
time.
Yep.
Every time that there's an expense for something that makes rich people richer,
Yep.
it's never brought up. And every time it's to help people in need, the right says, I would love in theory to help, but we just don't have the money. We don't have the money. We're giving it all elsewhere to our rich friends.
Yep.
That's the hypocrisy we're living under in this world.
Exactly. All right, well, I'm gonna save the next story for the next segment after we take a break. We're gonna talk a little bit about what voters are saying about the risks to our democracy and whether or not those risks really motivate them to vote in one way or the other. It's an important story, a good discussion that we're gonna have when we come back. And then later, we'll also talk about Elon Musk using his newly purchased social media platform to spread insane conspiracy theories about a man who was just hit in the head with a hammer by a crazy person. So yes, we're gonna talk about Elon Musk's crazy claims about Paul Pelosi when we return. Welcome to our social break. Lots of comments to get to, starting with Danielle in our TYT members comments. Spookiest thing I saw today was my student loan debt total. I'm pushing $400,000 now.
Jeez.
That's it's like a condo. I mean, kind of, depending on where you would buy. At this point, I don't even know if there is a condo worth $400,000, but that is insane, absolutely insane. Occam's Taser says, I wanted to, by the way, every time I see Occam's razor, I think of Dave Rubin, who still doesn't know what Occam's razor is. It's amazing. Anyway, I wanted to spook establishment politicians, so I dressed as a free and fair election this year. Ooh, that's a good one.
I'd like to stuff that ballot box. I don't know what that means.
My God. Jess B. Anti-Racist says, every year I gave my son's Halloween costume to the children at a home for the unhoused. That's a really great idea. Also, a lot of like secondhand stores I noticed over the weekend sell like used Halloween costumes. So if you're looking for a good deal, I would recommend that. Theater Goddess says, the good thing about forgetting my first Food for Thought Blue Apron gift card is the $200 delivery I just got because I used it with my winnings from this time around. The bad thing is that I now have no room in my fridge. It's a good problem to have. I'll just put it that way. Have you ever done like the Blue Apron meals?
I have not.
They're amazing. So we're doing this fun trivia thing where TYT members and only TYT members can participate. It's called Food for Thought. You answer for a chance to win a $100 Blue Apron gift card. And if you're watching the show throughout the week, we ask a trivia question on Fridays during the bonus episode. And if you answer it correctly, you get a $100 Blue Apron gift card. A bunch of people have a chance to win. It's not like it's only one per week.
And I think away like 100 each time lately.
Yeah, and I think Cenk like throws them around. Like someone says something
good comments.
Good. Yeah,
and you don't have to give a credit card to sign up. And I keep being told I'm not eligible. Not okay.
Yeah. Every Friday, TYT members can participate in weekly trivia called Food for Thought. And if you're not a member yet, just sign up by going to tyt.com/join. And you can find out more information about this at tyt.com/food. All right, we've got a minute left. Let me read some more comments. LJ Wombology says, Halloween costume idea for Comrade Anna. Blue worn out blazer with the sleeves too short and a TYT logo t-shirt. Do you know who that is?
No. Oh, Cenk.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
Dude, he's got.
I never noticed the sleeves being too short, but I can see it.
Yeah, no, his wardrobe is bad.
Are his sleeves too short? Of course, of course.
So bad. Eclectic Miss Helenia Helena says, we need someone like Lula and a speech like that one when Trump was defeated. Needed a speech like that one when Trump was defeated. Instead, we got Biden and a lot of the establishment acting like everything was normal, even after the Capitol was stormed. I don't know about that. I mean, I feel like, all right. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to TYT. Anna Kasparian and Ben Glebe with you. Let's talk a little bit about democracy and whether or not Americans truly cherish it. Most Americans do in fact believe that our democracy is at risk, but a small fraction of them are basing their midterm votes on the fact that they feel that democracy is being dismantled. Now, in a New York Times Siena College poll, which was released this month, 71% of voters said they believe democracy is at risk, but only 7% said they view it as the most important issue facing the country. Now, are there fears about democracy being dismantled or being at risk valid? Yes. It turns out that about 60% of Americans will have an election denier on their midterm ballot. And that's, of course, candidates who completely bought Trump's lies about the election being stolen from him. Some of those candidates are running for offices such as governor, secretary of state, and attorney general, which would give them significant power over how elections are conducted in their states if they were to win. Now, we can talk about a lot of the reasons why voters might be feeling this way. So there's gonna be a little bit of speculation here. But before we get to that, let me just note that the priorities for these voters were inflation, crime, gas prices. So some of the more immediate issues that they're dealing with, whereas our democracy being at risk is not necessarily an immediate issue to them that's impacting their lives negatively at this moment. So that's one of the potential reasons, right? It's just wanting to deal with what's in front of you right now. But I think there are other reasons as well. So Ben, I'm gonna go over to you and ask you what you think.
I think this is the absolutely most pressing issue we are facing right now. I'm so glad we're talking about it today because we have just a few days until the midterms on November 8th. And there are a lot of different reasons, and so many of the reasons people still are not prioritizing it are just missing the forest for the trees here. Of course, the immediate issues are very important, but if you don't have a democracy, if you have literally just authoritarian rule takeover and leaders that do not listen to the will of the people and fuel conspiracy theories, it leads to violence, it leads to chaos. You see what happened to Paul Pelosi, you see what's happening, people shooting up outside of FBI offices, you see what's happening everywhere where people attack the Capitol building of this nation and then claim that's not a problem and they are patriots. So quickly, everything turns upside down if you do not prioritize protecting what we have left of our democracy. So a lot of people are also saying they don't care about the risks to our democracy because our democracy is already so broken. Yeah, that is of course true. We have so much dark money and so much influence of corrupt people corrupting corrupt politicians, absolutely. But at least we still have the vote. At least we still have the ability to kick them out, sometimes even. We at least still have the ability to say that is not gonna stand and bring in new leaders and at least as fast as we can change and save literally the future of the country. And as America goes the world. You see it now happening in Brazil. You see it happening in places all over the world. And if we don't step up right now in these midterm elections and have historic turnout, if we don't outdo the midterm turnout from 2018, if we don't step up and say enough is enough and we will not support any election denier. 60% of the country, and I read you the statistic, has an election denier on their ballot right now that will not agree to your vote, will not agree to the will of the people. You think it's bad enough that rights are being overturned? The right to reproductive health is being overturned. They're talking about turning over gay rights, talking about turning over any basic right in this country that we hold dear is up for grabs once you have people that are not beholden to the will of the people at all. and are now just beholden only 100% to their corporate backers, to whatever job they want to get when they leave Congress, soon as the revolving door can spin around once. You have to step up right now and tell all of your friends and tell all of your Republican friends, this is not the time to vote for wedge issues. It's not the time to vote for the things that traditionally divide the parties. It's a time to step up for truth. That's why groups like the Lincoln Project and others are standing up and saying, we still believe in Republican principles, but not now. Now is the chance we have, the first time and maybe the last time we get to go on record at the ballot box after Jan 6 and say, anyone who does not believe in the free and fair elections of the United States will be pushed to the dustbin, not even of history, because they won't even be a footnote. They'll be a joke that ran and lost horribly. It's right now only, November 8th.
Yeah, look, I have a lot of thoughts on this. Number one, it seems as though Democrats have used the risk to our democracy as a campaign messaging tactic and nothing more than that. And I think when you use something as serious as a political tool, rather than actually following it up with what it needs to be followed up with, people are less likely to take it as seriously as they should. So let me explain what I mean. The January 6th hearings. I mean, Trump is still not being investigated. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, he still has not been charged by the DOJ for his very clear involvement in what transpired, not only on January 6th, but everything that was taking place behind the scenes with all the planning and all the plotting that was going on. The fact that the DOJ hasn't charged him with anything, okay, well, I mean, is our democracy really at risk? Because if it were at risk, wouldn't the Democrats, wouldn't the DOJ want to charge Trump after we've seen all these hearings and we've seen all that evidence? I think that the Democrats really hurt themselves, by doing like a billion investigations into Trump that lead to nothing, okay? Different issues, not just like the election denialism. And I also think that when people are hurting economically, yeah, that is gonna be like the most important thing that they're gonna be thinking about, the most important thing that they're gonna wanna solve, right? They want politicians and they want political leaders who can speak to that economic instability. And Democrats haven't really done a great job on that either. We've heard a ton of excuses for why they weren't able to accomplish the things that they said they would accomplish as long as they got that majority in Congress. Remember, leading up to those 2 Senate runoff races in Georgia, what did we hear over and over again from Democrats? We need to win because if we win, we'll have the majority. If we can get the majority, we can get you voting rights. They failed in that. They didn't even try with voting rights. They didn't even try. And so I think that is part of the problem. Like, it's hard for people to take the fears of our democracy being dismantled seriously. Like, if we don't see real action. Do you get what I'm saying?
100%.
Yeah.
So much I want to respond to there because you're so right that people aren't seeing the change. And it's again because Democrats do not ever message strongly and properly. And they make false promises that are not accurate to the letter of what the truth is. So you're totally right. They were saying those 2 spots in Georgia would make all the difference and we're gonna pass it. And we got those 2 spots, nothing passed because they were not talking about real math. They were saying we need to get to 50 and then plus Kamala Harris is 51, just ignoring you got Manchin and Sinema and sometimes others that just refuse to go along with the party's platform that can change the future. So the real number is 52 plus Kamala Harris's vote. And that's sadly was not messaged now, so you're gonna lose a lot of people. Millions are gonna say you lied last time. But the truth is we need 52 for most of these issues to pass. And then it is Manchin and Sinema proof. For some of these, like cannabis legalization, we need about 5 more in the Senate. And we need to, of course, hold the House as well. That's the real math. And so it sucks we have to change it, but it still doesn't change the fact that on November 8th, if we get just 2 more Democratic senators and hold the House, then all of these things will pass. Because the House took action. The House did pass voting rights, the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, but it won't be taken up by a Senate that won't allow it, and we don't have a filibuster-proof majority, and we don't have even enough to make a carve-out of the filibuster because you need the vote that you won't get from Manchin and Sinema on that. You get 2 more, and you get all those carve-outs, and that change truly can happen. I wish they were messaging that better, pushing that out better, 100%. That's a real shame that they did not. But at the same time, when you're talking about the threats to our democracy more broadly, that is true. That is a giant problem that people don't believe it to be true just because these investigations aren't leading to things. 100%. The Jan 6 committee should not have done all these trials, come to a conclusion, then said, oh, but now maybe we'll subpoena Trump and see what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
They just weaken themselves and they
100%.
let go at the end. But I'm hopeful.
It looks, because when they do that, it looks like it's just political.
Just for show,
like it's
yes.
just for show and something to do, something for Democrats to kind of hang their hat on as we approach the midterm elections.
Yes.
And when it appears politically motivated like that, Americans are not going to take it as seriously, especially when there are other issues that are front and center in their lives, impacting them day in, day out.
True, but I still hold out hope that, I mean, we do know that the DOJ is investigating Trump. They have not brought charges yet. I'm hoping it's because they were trying to hold to the old, I guess, respect for not interfering with midterms. I don't know how truth would interfere, but maybe right after the midterms, there will be charges coming soon. Let's hope, because it is not just all the things that you mentioned that Trump did leading up to January 6th, all of the planning, but the worst thing is that he is currently still undermining our democracy every day, calling these election deniers, saying, the more you double down on the big lie, the more you're gonna win. And that is, he's currently still trying to tear down our democracy. He's committing crimes every day. By the definition of sedition, of treason against this country, it's giving aid and comfort to our enemies. What would give any enemy of the United States more comfort than a former president that controls the minds of 40, 50% of the country to say, we don't have democracy anymore, you can make up your own facts? That destroys America. That is treason by definition. And in the Constitution, treason can be punished by up to a punishment of death. So we need to start taking so much more seriously in this country the consequences that we purport to stand by. And if you care so much about the Constitution, start standing up for it. Not just being able to keep your gun based on the one sentence in the Second Amendment, but the whole thing in its totality and what it stands for in this country. Then maybe you can save the future. We don't let our country fall by the wayside. Or don't, just stay home and keep those 2 hours to binge Netflix more and let American democracy go bye-bye. I don't know why I didn't NSYNC bye-bye at the end.
I don't know, I'm into it though.
Thank
you, boo.
Thank you so much. I'm sweating.
All right. No, I love the passion. It's so hard at this point to have any faith in the Democratic Party doing anything that would turn this ship in the right direction, really. Republicans tell you who they are. They're candid, they're transparent. They tell you exactly what they're planning to do, and more often than not, they actually do it.
And they message so hard on lies.
They're relentless.
On lies. And we should message as hard on the truth. They are taking away your country, your freedom, your democracy, all of that. And why I'm so glad we're talking about this a lot here at TYT is because the mainstream media keeps making false equivalencies on this issue that determines the future of the country on both sides. This is not a both sides issue. There is no way that you can say, oh, it's an equally valid opinion to say democracy doesn't matter and elections don't matter. That's crazy. And there's mainstream news networks saying, I'm sorry, Trump supporters, if you're offended by this story. No, that's no longer a valid opinion. If you support Trump now, today, in the face of his ongoing torching of our democracy, you are a traitor as well. You don't get to support somebody's policies when they're not in power, when the thing they are still doing, being out of power, is destroying the democracy. That is all he's doing. And that's a huge danger.
Well, speaking of huge danger, let's go to Elon Musk, who is now spreading all sorts of disinformation on the platform he purchased. So fun. 3 days after purchasing Twitter, Elon Musk tweeted and then deleted a baseless conspiracy theory about Nancy Pelosi's husband, Paul Pelosi, who of course was attacked by a lunatic with a hammer. Now, this came again after a man by the name of Paul DePape, I don't know how you say his name. I've heard it pronounced both ways, so that's why I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, he broke into the Pelosi's home with a hammer and then literally cracked Paul Pelosi's skull by hitting him in the head with the hammer. Musk tweeted a link to a Santa Monica Observer article by the way, not a credible source at all, a right-wing publication that apparently publishes all sorts of fake news and conspiracy theories. And the article that Elon Musk shared in his tweet claimed that Paul Pelosi was involved with a male sex worker. In the tweet, Musk writes, "There's a tiny possibility there might be more to this story than meets the eye." Now, it's unclear why he decided to delete that tweet later. It could be because he's, spreading conspiracy theories and disinformation on a platform that's supposed to attract advertisers, and maybe advertisers wouldn't be as interested advertising on that platform if the owner of that platform is putting out these gross homophobic conspiracy theories about a man who was just viciously attacked. Say what you will about the Pelosi's, no one deserves to be attacked like that, okay, period. But you have right-wingers egging it on. You have this misinformation being spread by Elon Musk because he wants to outdo Trump in being the #1 social media troll. And he did respond to a tweet from Hillary Clinton. So the tweet that I read you was a response to Hillary Clinton's tweet where she had said that the Republican Party and its mouthpieces now regularly spread hate and deranged conspiracy theories. "It is shocking but not surprising that violence is the result. As citizens, we must hold them accountable for their words and the actions that follow." Now, the perpetrator here, DePape, was charged today, which is just really unacceptable behavior. I mean, the fact that we would have a violent criminal who violently assaulted someone get criminally charged and possibly spend time behind bars is just completely unacceptable, right? Anyway, so during a Mirandized and recorded interview at the San Francisco Police Department, DePape was very clear about what he wanted to do to Nancy Pelosi in particular. He told the San Francisco Police Department he was going to hold Nancy Pelosi hostage. If Nancy were to tell DePape the truth, he would let her go, and if she lied, he was going to break her kneecaps. He's officially been charged with assault of an immediate family member of a US official and also attempted kidnapping of a US official on account of the performance of official duties. That's a lot, but I'm curious what you think about all of this, Ben. By the way, I'm being sarcastic about charging him criminally. He should be behind bars.
100.
That's what sane people think. Anyway,
yes, 100%. And the fact that we've allowed in any respect the false perception that we on the left do not believe also in law and order is insane.
Agreed.
Any person with a reasonable mind realizes that there are people that need to be removed from society and rehabilitated and cannot be allowed to commit crime, let alone violent crime on people. That is categorically false, that impression, and we've again lost the messaging war on that.
Yes.
But that message about DePape saying during his interrogation by the police that he was going to kneecap Nancy Pelosi, he went on to say that if she lied, which he expected her to, that he would kneecap her so she would have to be wheeled in a wheelchair into Congress as a message to other lawmakers that there are consequences for their lies, which, as a reminder, is the truth. And the lies are what he believes due to these right-wing QAnon conspiracy theories that the former president is reposting on his private social media network constantly and may soon be allowed back onto Twitter, which, and again, by the way, the Santa Monica Observer, this organization that Elon Musk retweeted and added a comment giving credence to, is the same organization that published during the Hillary Clinton campaign that she had died and had been replaced by a body double. And that's the credibility of the source of the person who's going to come back onto Twitter and run it now. He's one of the most powerful people on the planet now, in addition to being the richest person on the planet. And his foray into fulfilling what he promised his advertisers just 2 days ago, which was this will not be a free-for-all for crazy theories and hate speech. He himself just did something that will lead to more political violence, that excuses it, that makes it okay to push disinformation without the tiniest bit of research or even common sense. And it led to a great example of how fast it escalates. Not only by the time he deleted it was it retweeted like 25,000 times and liked 100,000 times, but Donald Trump Jr. posted, now it's okay to make light of this, posted a Halloween costume, Paul Pelosi Halloween costume. It's a pair of underwear and a hammer. And that is something you can make light of now. Literally political violence, this disgusting person you see on your screen right now dares make light of a hammer, attack to the brain of an elderly man is so disgusting. And if he can make that joke, of course it means that people out there that don't have the public scrutiny and the money and the position in life, that feel desperate and feel lied to and feel marginalized through these lies, will commit political violence again. That tweet about the hammer costume should be illegal and should be punished. And how do you put that back in the bag? Certainly not by allowing Elon Musk, who proved himself already to be so irresponsible, to be in charge of our public square.
You know, they're never gonna stop doing this. This is what they do, right? They, first of all, they live for the trolling. They love to incite violence toward their political opponents. They do it all day on social media. It's what they live for. So I'm not surprised at conspiracy theories being shared about Paul Pelosi. I'm not surprised that the incitements for violence or toward violence continue. I don't know what the solution is, right? What do we do?
We need consequences. We need consequences for inciting violence at the very least.
It's just not gonna happen. It's not. I don't know what the solution is, because there won't be any consequences. They're gonna keep inciting violence. I mean, how many examples do we have to provide to show that they incite violence? This is what they do. And then they turn around, by the way, this is the thing about the right wing. Then they turn around and claim that culturally, some groups of people tend to be more violent than others, culturally. And that's usually when they want to make a disgusting racist point.
And by culturally, I guess he means under his breath, coke-addicted white people, in my opinion, not proven, but coke-addicted white people like Don Jr.?
I mean, we're speculating that he likes to do.
My opinion.
Yeah, it is also.
We're all out opinions, I guess.
It's also my opinion. He does look a little strung out. Just saying. Opinion, not fact, because we don't know for sure. But nonetheless, look, it's a scary time right now for politicians. Democratic politicians. It's a scary time for members of the media who are targeted by various right-wing commentators and goons like Tucker Carlson, for instance. And we're living in a country that is dealing with, I don't even know, just a massive population of people who have severe mental health issues, but don't have the healthcare necessary to get the care that they need to get things under control. And they are being exploited by right-wingers who want to incite violence toward their political opponents. This is why we keep seeing more and more mass shootings. Also, yes, we have laxed gun laws and we're swimming in a country of guns. All of these things are a recipe for disaster. And so in this case, luckily this guy didn't have a gun, but he did some serious damage with a hammer. And the real question is, what are we gonna do to keep people safe? What are we gonna do to maybe ensure that everyone has access to the mental health care they need? Like this guy, just reading about him and reading about his past and some of the things that he wrote in his blog, he was disturbed, to say the least. And people who have that mindset or might have an undiagnosed, untreated mental health issue, they get played by these right-wingers inciting violence, and it's terrifying, and it's crazy that he was able to get into the Pelosi's home and do what he did. I don't know what else to say about it, because I don't think the right wing is ever gonna stop. They have already tested, the boundaries. They've tested our legal system. They've tested the Democratic Party and how far the Democratic Party is willing to go in terms of accountability. And the message that they've received over and over again is that they can do what they're doing, they can keep doing what they're doing with no consequences. So why wouldn't they? They don't care. You think they're worried about us talking about how they're bad people? They love it, they live for that too. So yeah, this is just the situation we're dealing with. It's very dire, and I don't know what the answer is.
It is an incredibly complex question, and the answer certainly is not clear yet, but we do know for sure the way that the answer will not come is through loosening moderation of hate speech and disinformation and the incitement of violence on these platforms. And so there's a little tiny bit of hope that Elon Musk is not instantly reinstating everybody and saying he's going to have a content moderation council of wildly different opinions that will hopefully be vetting things, and maybe he will be backing off, let's hope at least somewhat, and give them power to moderate his own tweets as well. But it certainly won't happen with this free-for-all of treating violent and hateful rhetoric as though that is equally permissible free speech. That is not. That is dangerous to both people's lives and to the future of the country. And I know our Congress is certainly not known for its ability to get a lot of very effective change done, but there is a spate of legislation that is on the table that is being discussed where and that's maybe what could come out of the hearings they have been holding with these social media companies, that they might put restrictions on these platforms as to what kind of moderation they must implement on their platforms, and that would be a very good thing. Again, never to take away the free open exchange of ideas or free speech that we hold so dear in this country, but absolutely to stop disinformation that leads to violence and death, even the death of our democracy.
When we come back from the break, we have yet another Elon Musk related story, this time having to do with some of the changes that are coming to Twitter, which hopefully will encourage more people to not use Twitter. So we've got that story and more coming right up. Stick around.
Give yourself to the dark side.
Cling, 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 cling. Yuri Lino in our Twitch sub says, big fan of Cenk's Mad King costume. I don't know what that is.
Oh, that's my special. Did Cenk dress like me?
Oh, yeah.
Mad King's got it.
Okay, I didn't realize that was a reference to your special.
I understand, yes.
Hogwarts Emo Dragon says, I voted to restore reproductive freedom in Michigan today. That's awesome. In the California ballot, there is, I forget what the ballot initiative is, but it's basically meant to have reproductive rights be part of our state constitution. Obviously, I voted yes on that, so solidarity. Polar Bear Dragon resubbed with Prime for 15 months. Greatest not fake news broadcast out there. Thank you for that. Broadway J says, since Cenk isn't here, down goes Bolsonaro. Down goes Bolsonaro. Yes. Ali 1987 resubbed with Prime for 6 months and said, thank God Anna is back. Thank you. I know I'm a little low energy. I'm still not 100%, so bear with me today. Electric Snow says, yay, Ben is here in all caps.
I like that.
That's serious love right there. Yeah, I only use all caps when I'm serious about something.
Yeah, or angry, maybe they're angry. Yo, Ben is here.
Mayhem Mendez says, right wingers all over the world adopt Trump's nonsense. America sneezes and the world gets a cold. Yeah, I know, we love to export our worst. Occam's Taser says, apparently Brazilians don't want to live in a country that wrongfully arrests political leaders, even if it's by a small margin. Stellar Wingman resub for 15 months and says, Anna and Ben, woohoo. Start and
That's
park.
how I feel.
Yeah, by the way, I'm excited. Like today's show is great. Like Ben's great, Waz is great. The whole show is gonna be fantastic.
It's fun being on with you again.
Yes, definitely. Chipmunk PDX says, honestly, not seeing TYT in high-end expensive outfits makes them more relatable, and I love seeing them wear TYT store merch. Thank you for that.
That's a slam on my suit today. Sometimes I wear suits.
You look
Sometimes
pretty nice.
I don't. Thank you.
Is that a fancy suit?
No.
Yeah.
I'm wearing the same black pants I wear every day, weird sneakers, and whatever H&M jacket that probably cost me about $18.
What's like a good suit brand? Like Hugo Boss, right?
Oh yeah, Hugo Boss.
Yeah.
I got a free Hugo Boss suit once.
Yeah, they're a lot.
I hosted an event. They bought me a Hugo Boss suit. It was like $1,000.
Yeah.
And it was really soft and made my soft body look very soft. I had like a harder, cheaper suit. That way it covers some of my bumps.
Ah, got it. And have the suit do the work that you don't want to do.
Absolutely. A gym in a suit.
I love it. All right, we've got Lorocco who says, it's like the boy that cried wolf. Eventually people stop caring even if there's imminent danger because they're fed up of hearing about it, meaning the threats to our democracy.
Yes, that was one of the criticisms too, but that's not the time to get tired of the phrase. It's a real threat and we haven't been able to vote on it yet, so we need to get rid of that.
Yeah, all right, we gotta get back to the show. Let me. Metal Turtle 571, I didn't get any candy, so I'm giving out oranges. I'm so getting egged, definitely. Oranges, really? Just turn the lights off so trick-or-treaters don't come. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to TYT. Let's get right to our next story because there is, you know what I'm gonna do? No, him? Okay, we're gonna get to the next story right now, and it still has to do with Elon Musk, but more importantly, it has to do with what he wants to change about the platform he just purchased. So let's talk about it. Twitter users might have to start paying to maintain their verified status, and that's according to a new report from The Verge. Apparently, Elon Musk has given employees an ultimatum: meet his deadline to introduce paid verification on Twitter or get fired. So here are the details. The directive is to change Twitter Blue, the company's optional $4.99 a month subscription that unlocks additional features, into a more expensive subscription that also verifies users, according to people familiar with the matter and internal correspondence seen by The Verge. Twitter is currently planning to increase the price of that Twitter Blue to $19.99 for the new Twitter Blue subscription. Under the current plan, verified users would have 90 days to subscribe or lose their blue check mark. Employees working on the project were told on Sunday that they need to meet a deadline of November 7th to launch the feature or they will be fired. So here's what I can't stand. People I know, people I like, who responded to that story with like, why $20? Maybe like a couple dollars. You said it too,
I did
Ben.
say it.
I'm calling you out.
I did say it.
No, don't put money in that guy's pocket just to maintain a blue check mark.
You're right.
Who cares?
I was just saying, if it's gonna be an amount, it's an absurd billionaire arbitrarily chosen $20 a month that nobody can afford.
Yeah.
That was my main point.
Yeah.
It's absurd on its face because if you're buying a platform to try to get rid of bots and fake users, and you're trying to make it a much more true, honest public square, your first initiative should be enabling everyone to get a free blue check mark, not just public figures that currently can get them, and verify people maybe with uploading a picture of your ID, and there's obviously privacy concerns there, but figuring out a way where you can verify someone's identity and stop these anonymous trolls, that would be of course what he should do and not charge anything. Making it more elitist, more difficult, more out of the reach of people, and just actually taking the current blue check marks, like I have one, and just letting us drop those off to make it less verified and less trustworthy is insane. All I was saying was $3 is better than 20.
No, I get it, yeah. I just don't want, it's like the typical way things develop in the country, right? Some rabid right-winger will frame the issue or frame like how the discussion should go. And it's like the typical negotiating tactic where you go in wanting to charge like, let's say $100, knowing that that's insane. And then the person you're negotiating with comes in with like a lower, no, how about nothing? How about no, you're not charging us anything to use this hellscape social media platform that like many of us are just forced to use because our careers literally rely on it.
Hey Siri, Anna made a good point. Please cancel my Twitter Blue subscription.
Do you think we'll ever get to a point in the country where there's just mass disinterest in using Twitter? Like kind of like what happened with Facebook, honestly. Like Facebook turned into the middle-aged mom conspiracy theory hub. And I never log on to Facebook anymore. I don't even know why I have an account at this point, right? But with Twitter, I feel like regardless of how terrible it is, I've never gone onto Twitter and felt good. Has anyone ever gone onto Twitter and thought like, Nailed it. This is bringing much joy to my life.
I mean, sometimes my replies make me feel good. People that watch my special and whatnot. But generally speaking, when you look at the timeline, it ain't a good situation.
No.
That is true. And with regards to Facebook, that is true too. I had my Facebook hacked now 3 months ago, right before my special came out, the most important time for me to be able to promote my work, and I can't get it back. And I even have friends who are high up at Facebook who have been unable to help me get it back. Imagine someone without that connection that can't get it back. I've just given up on it completely. And I'm happier that I have one less social network to worry about in a very big way. But that's why another thing that I've always talked about and fought for that I think is insane that all these platforms just started doing a handful of years ago, maybe 5, 8 years ago, is when they started making your feed no longer a real-time feed.
Right.
It's now an algorithm-based feed, and so we don't even get the information that we sign up for in this supposed open public square, and it's only the tweets and the Instagram posts and all of that that are the most controversial. Then the first 5 seconds after it posts, that it gets 1 million people to instantly engage with it, and it pushes extremism and gets rid of rational thought, intelligent conversation, any thought that might be more trying to bring people together. It gets squelched and shadow banned, and you get completely destroyed. And so Instagram actually rolled out a real-time feed option a few months ago, very quietly. And it's like a really weird way that you gotta like double click on your profile picture. It doesn't even tell you activated it.
So much better.
So much better.
Yeah, I don't go on Instagram nearly enough. But every time I do, it's like, wait a minute. These are all the people in my personal life, and I really like them. And look at how happy they are, and then I feel good, right?
But even there, it's still a challenge to get true real-time feeds. And to answer your question about will people ever give up on Twitter, why I don't think they will, and why it's so important that we try to get it right as best we can, because it's the only, what's so beautiful about it is it's so simplistically, it's a quick bullhorn. Each of us gets a way to get our thoughts into the world.
Yeah.
And if that can be moderated in a way that's fair and just filters out dangerous speech, then we each have a voice. And it has also been so instrumental in things like the Arab Spring and revolutions and protests, being able to collate and coalesce and get the masses on board. And so that's very important. We do need that in society. It's a shame that somebody irresponsible is in charge of it. And so we'll see how it shakes down, and maybe there can be a role for Congress to help fix this, because that's the point of our government. It's the only company that we elect the leaders of, and so it's our only chance to make change that can maybe combat some of these greedy billionaires that think, yes, $20 per month, no problem at all.
Yeah.
Oh, you're gonna have only like powerful people verified and no more common man whatsoever. Way to create a real public square. How insane.
Yeah, I mean, look, if it's truly thought of as a public square, having one billionaire have complete control over it, not a good idea. Not a good idea, obviously. The thing I will say is, right now, the bulk of the revenue that Twitter makes comes from advertising. Elon Musk notoriously wants to free up some of the unsavory speech that people want to engage in on Twitter, which might turn advertisers away. We know he overpaid for Twitter. He overpaid as much as $20 million for Twitter, which he's probably hurting over that a little bit. And so he wants to find
20 billion, I think.
Was it billion?
He bought it for $44 billion.
That's right, God.
And he overpaid
it's so
by $20
hard
billion.
to wrap your mind around that number.
It's crazy.
You're right, 20
He paid like
billion.
way more than the stock was currently trading at, and then realized, and tried to back out, talk trash about the platform for months, and then got stuck with it. Now he's like, all right, let's just retweet conspiracy theories and then hope for the best.
But the point I'm trying to make is, he wants to loosen up some of the terms of service rules, right? He wants people to be able to say pretty much whatever they want. That's gonna really hurt his revenue with advertisers. So how is he gonna make up for that lost revenue? Let me just charge these Twitter Blue subscribers more money. And people care so much about their verified status that to entice them to pay that $20 a month, I'm gonna threaten to take their verified status away. Take my verified status away, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't care. Take it away today. Take it away today. I won't cry about it. I don't care. Okay? It's just the idea of supporting him financially disgusts me. And I have no problem losing a freaking blue check mark to avoid helping him out in that way. Anyway, all right, well, that does it for that story. We're out of time.
We are, huh?
We are. I'm gonna have to do the Kanye story in the next segment, unfortunately.
I don't get to talk about Kanye again? Darn it.
I know.
I love talking about that. Oh, I wish I could cuss during this part of the show.
I know, me too, me too.
God.
Anyway, everyone check out Ben. Check out his work over at Rebel HQ. Also check him out on the Friday Power Panels where he's a regular. Where else can they find your work, Ben?
My stand-up comedy special, my second ever, The Mad King. It's on YouTube, so everybody can watch for free. I speak out on every hot button issue, and I think I try to find a way to amplify a lot of progressive ideas in jokes that still make you laugh out loud and show that you can be kind and moral and still be funny. And so if you like it, please leave comments and share it many times on your socials so that we can beat the algorithms there, because I'm being a bit shadow banned with that as well. But I'm very proud of it.
All right, everyone. Thank you, Ben.
Thanks,
Ben's awesome. We're gonna take a break. When we come back, Wosny Lombre joins me for the second hour of the show. Don't miss it.
The concept of the Young Turks means the audience, they are the Young Turks. They are the go-getters. They are the ones making the emphatic change happen in their local community. The reality is that we've always, young and the not so young, we've always cared about news. But when you do not see the messengers of the news look like you, when they do not share your experiences, exposures, and environment, and there's a disconnect between you and the news. I lecture in mass communications. One thing I tell all of my students, there is no such thing as non-biased news. It never has been. Non-biased news has always been an illusion. Let's go back to the 60s and 70s, where people would say that was the purity of non-biased news. News has a segment. That segment has a time. That time, you must do your story and be finished. That means the producer, the writer, the orator has to take out what they don't think is important and only leave in what they believe is important. They have a limited time to tell the story. They do not have time to tell everybody's version or everybody's side. And they get to choose the facts that they bring to you, as well as the nuance, which really is a word for opinion, that they bring to you, the context they bring to you. So we've always had a level of bias in news. Here's the issue. The issue is to not deceive individuals as if you don't have some level of opinion with your news commentary. And that's what TYT has never done. They've always been authentic in their approach to progressive ideology and their news analysis and political breakdown. And I think that's how you actually win the heart and soul of individuals who are consuming information from you, because now they see themselves in you.
This is where it all began for many elected progressive leaders. The Young Turks was one of the few media outlets to cover the races of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Jamal Bowman, Cori Bush, Rashida Tlaib, and many, many more. We know a great majority of the country is actually progressive, and TYT is here to amplify these issues so that we can have better policies that a majority of the country actually supports. We want to drive positive change, and we've been doing that for 20 years here. That's why we're launching Canvas 2022, a campaign to get out the vote and amplify progressive candidates, the progressive agenda, and their primary races. The midterm elections are fast approaching, and we know mainstream media won't cover progressive voices, but because the TYT audience is too strong, we can make a difference in the midterm elections to help progressives get elected and make sure our priorities are heard. Support our mission to drive positive change. Visit tyt.com/canvas2022.
There is so much heinous news out there. That's why we've got to laugh, not to cry. So join me, Francesca Fiorentini, and some of my progressive friends, comedians, actors, experts, and activists, as we deliver an hour of laughter and analysis every week on my podcast, The Bituation Room. The Bituation Room is an invitation for all of us to take ourselves a little bit less seriously while still giving you some concrete ideas for action. New episodes are available every single week, so join the Frantifa and listen to The Bituation Room on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your TYT network podcasts. And make sure to subscribe and give the show 5 stars. Because I like stars.
Welcome back to TYT. Anna Kasparian and Wosny Lombre with you. Woz, how you doing? You look upset, Woz. Why are you so upset?
No. I just downloaded this new Mac OS, and it's just so many confusing things on here, and I was just reading something.
It's gonna be okay, Dad. I'll walk you through it at some other time. Okay.
I am that terrible at this tech stuff.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. My dad made Christian come to their house early in the morning today to help him with tech-related stuff. He's learned to avoid asking me to help him because I get so frustrated. But Christian's like the most patient, calm person ever. He was like helping my dad last night, but it was getting late. He's like, "Can I come back in the morning?" I was like, "You're gonna come back in the morning? What?" You're already there, Woz. You're already my dad. It's crazy.
I am already there, but Christian has to learn the evasion tactics. You know, we learn how to deal with these older folks when it comes to all the stuff that they need so much help with. It. Like it could be as simple as a microwave, to be honest. That's how bad it gets at times.
Dude, some of those microwaves have too many features. It can get very confusing. So I get that. All right, well, exactly. Woz, the next story in the rundown today, I was planning on doing in the first hour. We ran out of time, so unfortunately, I'm gonna force you to talk about Kanye again. So without further ado, let's get to it.
When I said that, and I questioned the death of George Floyd, it hurt my people. It hurt the black people. So I want to apologize to hurting them because right now God has shown me by what Adidas is doing and by what the media is doing, I know how it feels to have a knee on my neck now. So I thank you, God, for humbling me and letting me know how it really felt.
There you have Kanye West, who until very recently was dealing with multiple lucrative business deals and still till this day has no idea what it's like to have a police officer's knee on his neck. But nonetheless, he is really stretching to make himself out to be oppressed, which I just find fascinating. And this, of course, follows his pretty gross statements about George Floyd, who was murdered by a cop named Derek Chauvin. He was convicted of murdering George Floyd and now sits in prison as a result. But Kanye West had claimed that George Floyd died of a drug overdose, not because of the fact that he was murdered by a cop. And so his family, George Floyd's family, has now filed a lawsuit to the tune of $250 million. And it's a defamation lawsuit following Kanye's statements about the fentanyl overdose. Now, West addressed his recent anti-Semitic comments, simply saying he didn't realize he was being anti-Semitic at all. He had no idea that the terrible anti-Semitic tropes he was spewing were offensive and incredibly dangerous. So let's hear him address that.
I didn't realize that I could be considered anti-Semitic till I read one of the definitions of anti-Semitism.
But isn't that what you said? That Jews run everything?
Yeah, but that actually is considered to be anti-Semitic.
Right.
So I didn't realize that it was anti-Semitic to say, hey, you know, I have a Jewish attorney, I have a Jewish record label, I have a Jewish contractor.
There's more. I don't know what to do with this guy. Woz, you want to jump in?
Look, I don't want to defend Kanye, but I need viewers to understand. No. It's not about defending Kanye, because Kanye is a different case. Like, he likes to say stuff. He wants to get reactions out of people. He likes to court controversy. He's doing this stuff on purpose. Like, Kanye, we can take Kanye out of this, but specifically black people, especially because, I seen Kyrie Irving say some stupidity that got him like super jammed up more recently. A lot of people don't understand that a lot of black people don't get anti-Semitism. They don't understand how saying that Jewish people do well for themselves is racist. Because when people want to say racist things about black people, they say they're poor. They don't understand how calling Jewish people good with money racist. They don't understand how that could be racist, because when people want to say racist things about black people, they say they're frivolous with money. They don't understand how when you say, Jewish people, they stick together with their community. That's racist. Because what people will say about black people is that they don't solve their own problems, and that they don't stick together, and that they kill each other. So for a lot of black people, these things that are considered anti-Semitic, it becomes confusing, because it's literally the exact opposite of what people say black people are messing up as, to say racist things about them. So a lot of times these cats, they get confused. They don't understand. They don't know the history of the Jewish people going back literally thousands of years, especially in Europe, where literally every single place that they've ever been, folks have hated on them, killed them, persecuted them, and they had to flee that persecution. Like, they don't know this history. They just know all of these things that people say black people are at a deficit of. They see Jewish people doing well at it, and can't understand that if you say, well, Jewish people, they're quite influential in a lot of important industries. Like, they don't understand how that can be seen as a bad thing, because they don't know the history of these folks, right? And so, yeah, Kanye is an idiot. He really thinks controversy sells, and that's what he chases. And so he knows what he's doing, but a lot of folks don't really, I'm telling you.
Well, I think you provide an important perspective and insight, and I never thought about it that way, and I can understand why some might get confused about why certain anti-Semitic tropes happen to be anti-Semitic tropes. I get that. At the same time, I think Kanye knows full well that what he's saying is incredibly dangerous, is anti-Semitic, because he's not just saying like, oh, Jewish people are doing well for themselves, that's great. No, he's literally referring to them as like puppet masters. And it's the oldest anti-Semitic trope, that they control everything. And in subsequent comments, he talked about his bipolar disorder and kind of made it seem like there was a conspiracy by Jewish doctors to like misdiagnose him or something. So let me get to that part of the story. Kanye said his mental health issues were misdiagnosed by a Jewish doctor that would have had me on medication right now. If I was on medication right now, then one pill could have been swapped out, and it would have been Prince or Michael Jackson all over again. So he genuinely thinks like they're out to kill him. But because I didn't take the medication, I am able to speak to you guys clear of thought. Well, he definitely is clear of thought, and transparently, he says. So no, there's no confusion there. Like, he thinks there's a conspiracy by Jewish doctors to intentionally misdiagnose him with bipolar disorder so they can slip him a lethal, cyanide pill? What? And he needs to be on his medication. Let's just keep it real. His erratic behavior, he might think, oh, the controversy is great in terms of getting my name in headlines and people paying attention to me, but he lost every business deal. He's destroyed his entire career by spewing all this nonsense and refusing to take the medication that he clearly needs for his condition.
Yeah, just to be clear, of course, like Kanye's only saying this stuff about Jewish people because he knows it's messed up. Like, he knows that it will get attention. He knows that people's feelings will be hurt by it. And he thinks he should be able to rile people up in whatever way that he deems necessary. To him, it's, I've made all this money for all these people, I should be untouchable. Which, instead of like, yo, I'm untouchable now, let me I don't know, speak up for some actually marginalized people. No, Kanye's like, no, let me say some messed up things about Jewish people. And again, it's no different than the Make America Great Again hat. It's just Kanye being like, I don't see why I can't wear this hat. he knows that it hurts people's feelings. He kind of understands the signal of what that hat means to a lot of people, particularly black people and brown people. When you consider how hateful Trump's campaign and racist flat out his campaign was, and a lot of the aspects of his presidency were. Kanye's literally, he's saying this stuff because he knows it's messed up. There's no other reading on what Kanye's doing.
I totally agree with you on that. All right, let's move on because I want to talk about campaign Obama and how different he is from in office, has power Obama. All right, let's do it.
They had long hours and sore backs and bad knees to get that Social Security. And if Ron Johnson does not understand that, if he understands giving tax breaks for private planes more than he understands making sure that seniors who've worked all their lives are able to retire with dignity and respect, he's not the person who's thinking about you and knows you and sees you, and he should not be your senator from Wisconsin.
I always love to see Democrats cosplay successful Democrats. Campaign Obama. It's very different from President Obama, who actually advocated to cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. I'll get to those details in just a moment. But just to give you the context of where that fiery speech happened, Obama was in Milwaukee rallying for Mandela Barnes, who is running for a Senate seat in Wisconsin. Mandela Barnes, of course, is challenging the Republican incumbent, Ron Johnson, who is on the record as a politician who, of course, wants to cut incredibly important programs like Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. Now, let's watch that part of the speech in context, because really, I'd love to see more of this from Democrats, but not just when they're campaigning. I'd like to see that fire after the elections, when they're in charge and have majorities. Let's watch.
Some of you here are on Social Security. Some of your parents are on Social Security. Some of your grandparents are on Social Security. You know why they have Social Security? Because they worked for it. They worked hard jobs for it. They have chapped hands for it. They had long hours and sore backs and bad knees to get that Social Security. And if Ron Johnson does not understand that, if he understands giving tax breaks for private planes more than he understands making sure that seniors who've worked all their lives are able to retire with dignity and respect, he's not the person who's thinking about you and knows you and sees you, and he should not be your senator from Wisconsin.
Everything Obama said there was excellent. It was correct. It's the kind of campaign messaging that I think can actually win elections for Democrats. They need to hyper focus on the fact that even with all the economic populist jargon you hear from Republican politicians, at the end of the day, they're the same old austerity obsessed conservatives who have no interest in bettering your economic stability or your economic life. But at the same time, again, this is not a message that Democrats do a good job in driving home. And after the elections, they seem to abandon a lot of this. And I'll give you the details on what I mean in just a moment. But Waz, I wanted to give you an opportunity to jump in on Barry. I love that you call him Barry.
That guy.
Neither do I.
Yeah,
I do recognize him from 2008 presidential campaign Obama. But that's about it.
Right.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago, right? And even in 2012, he ran sort of as a populist where they made sure to accentuate Mitt Romney as rich job killer guy, right? Like they did a really effective job of framing Mitt Romney as, corporate raider, guy that comes in and cuts expenses, i.e. your damn job that you worked decades for. Like even in 2012, he ran as a populist candidate. But yeah, as soon as he got into office, all of that stuff went in the trash. And you read his book and all he does is make excuses as to why he couldn't use his power to do all of this stuff. And I already know what you're about to get into, Anna, because it's, the irony of all ironies of, Obama and his rush to be the, conciliatory, I'm a consensus builder. I'm gonna come in and be the common sense guy and work with the Republicans. And, we're gonna do this give or take, repartee back and forth. It never happened.
No, 100%, 100%. It did not happen. And real quick, just your statement about campaign Obama from 2012. You're right in that Obama knew the right message to use against Romney, and he had Romney like on the defensive, because Romney was suddenly talking about how he buys his button-down shirts from Costco. And it's like, no one believes that you're buying button-down shirts from Costco. Sit down, sit down.
They got Brooks Brothers in Costco?
But anyway, yes, so Obama, when he was in office, sang a different tune when it came to these popular social spending programs like Social Security. So back in 2012, there was this thing called the Grand Bargain, okay? So during the Grand Bargain, Obama offered to cut taxes, offered to raise taxes on the wealthy in return for cuts to Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. Now, Republicans were willing to play ball until they realized Obama was serious about raising taxes on the wealthy, and then they backed off. And luckily, the Grand Bargain didn't go through. Because again, part of that negotiation was that we would see deep cuts in Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, which would have been disastrous. Obama was the one who proposed that. You guys have to understand. And so when you look at where we are in this current political climate, we didn't just magically, accidentally get here. We got here because Democrats, all of a sudden, thanks to unlimited campaign money flowing into their campaign coffers, became beholden to these same corporations that Republicans tend to want to serve. And you have this two-party system that's kind of melded into one when it comes to austerity measures, when it comes to tax cuts for the rich and for corporations. And voters, understandably, were furious, because when you see campaign Obama telling you all these wonderful things, when you see campaign Democratic politicians tell you how they're gonna protect social spending, how they're gonna benefit or better your life, economically speaking, and then they don't deliver, in fact, do the exact opposite, people get angry, and they should get angry. Voters don't like to be hoodwinked, they don't like to be lied to. So look, I just wanna be fair and give accurate analysis, because while on its face, this video is great and I wanna celebrate it, words are cheap. I wanna see actual action that bolsters these social spending programs, protects these social spending programs. Don't go out there and give a fiery speech when you know full well back in 2011, you're the one who proposed that grand bargain that would have cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
Yeah, all of this in the context that Social Security, like the caps on it, haven't been raised in decades, and that's what these fools should be running on. They should be talking about giving folks more Social Security.
I think that the Biden administration did increase the amount of money that recipients are getting through Social Security. So to be fair, Biden did increase that amount, and I think that's great news. But you're right, most of the time that is not what happens.
Yeah, and that's what they should be running on. I think we have a very recent example of this happening, and that was Warnock and Ostroff in Georgia. They literally campaigned on getting people money. They literally was like, we're gonna put checks in your hands the minute you put us in office. And on the wave of those promises, they won. They turned, listen, man, people gotta realize how red of a state Georgia used to be. Of course, a lot of the demographics have changed and all of that, but this is a deeply conservative state that these fools have managed to turn purple. And the last time they were in a dogfight, they promised to put stuff in people's hands. Right? And so I think what Obama's doing there is great, but it doesn't go far enough. We need to be promising people more, because the bottom line is all of our resources are constantly going to who? The top people in our country, the freaking ruling class, right? We see that, CEO payouts, the bonuses, the people that accrue most of the profits, most of the benefits from skyrocketing profits are not the workers who produce them. It's the fat cats in the corner offices. And yes, finally, we need to make normal people whole. And I think something like Social Security is a beautiful place to start that.
Absolutely. All right, well, we got to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about a major tragedy in Seoul, South Korea over the weekend. It's Halloween related. And as someone who doesn't really like Halloween, just makes a lot of sense. And later, we'll also talk about, let's see, what am I going to tease you guys with? Oh, there is an incredible pastor who has some strong feelings about Herschel Walker. So we'll get to that incredible video as well later in the show. Stick around, we'll be right back. Jason Ray in our super chat says, Lula, we always knew he could do it. Michael Brooks, you lit the way. He did. It was a bittersweet moment yesterday reading about Lula's victory because Michael's not here to celebrate it. But it is good news for Brazil, and hopefully Lula is able to accomplish some of those goals in at least reversing some of the damage that's been done by Bolsonaro. Asimov's prophet says, Anna, what do you think the chances are that Bolsonaro is going to do something crazy like napalm the Amazon? I don't know about doing that to the Amazon, but I am a little concerned that he's going to go in the Trump direction of refusing to concede and essentially inciting his supporters to do terrible things. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but I am concerned about that. LJ Wombology says, looks like the Brazilian electorate took to heart some of the best advice from Michael Brooks. Don't be foolish. Exactly. Miriam writes in and says, Anna, I feel you on the costume thing. I have been a little sick too and find myself wearing my robe and slippers today. So I decided to dub myself the dreaded Big Lebowski. And go absolutely nowhere. That sounds amazing. I love that. I think me and my husband are just gonna walk around our neighborhood and just enjoy kids having fun, like watching kids trick or treat and stuff. That sounds kind of creepy, right? Yeah, just pretend like I didn't say that. We're just gonna go for a walk. We're gonna go, anyway. Stanky Leg says, Republicans are all about projection. Guaranteed they will be attempting to actually steal the election in 22 and 24. Do not let them intimidate you. Exactly. Jeremy Justice says, in Indiana, we have an election denier running for Secretary of State. He has 2 sexual assault allegations as well as a campaign finance scandal against him, and he's only down in the polls by 2%, which by the way, show you just how little the right wing really cares about like sexual assault against women. They'll bring up that issue whenever it's politically convenient for them, whenever they want to fearmonger about, like, let's say the trans community or whatever. But in reality, they don't care about these issues at all. Snack Panther says, Big Waz and Anna, somewhere Michael Brooks is rocking an Adidas sweatsuit saying shalom. Jason Ray writes in and says, again, oh goody, another way for right-wing dark money to pay to verify thought users. Comment about the Twitter story we did in the first hour. Thomas Daniel says, it's hard to decide listening to a Kanye story. I guess you can say it's a yay or nay. Don't listen to DJ Bart, okay? That was great. That was a great dad joke. Jason Ray says, when my dad passed away at 58 because I was over 18 and an only child, the government got all that money he paid into the Social Security system. I didn't even get funeral money help. Yeah, our government is cruel in many different ways, and it's really sad that you went through that. I'm sorry to hear that. All right, for now though, let's get back to the show. Welcome back to the show, everyone, and happy Halloween. Just wanted to give a shout out to Haunted Dragon and her wife. It is their anniversary. They actually got married on Halloween in 2015. So congratulations. I hope you guys are doing something special to celebrate today. All right, by the way, Waz, are you doing anything fun for Halloween other than do the show with me, obviously?
No, I'm going to the Clipper game. After this, the game starts at 7:30, so I'll head downtown after we're done with the bonus section.
That's definitely
but yeah,
scary.
That's about it.
Heading downtown.
Yeah. Well, oh my goodness, yeah. But other than that, that's about it.
All right, cool. All right, well, why don't we get to a Halloween story from the weekend? Unfortunately, it's a tragic one. Let's get to it.
Halloween horror and heartbreak. In Seoul's popular nightlife district, nightmare scenes. The narrow alleys of Itaewon lined with lifeless bodies, many in costume. Frantic first responders trying to save them.
153 people were killed in a crowd of 100,000 Halloween party attendees in Seoul, South Korea over the weekend. This took place on Saturday night. The tragedy happened in Seoul's most popular Halloween destination known as Itaewon. It's known for its bars, restaurants, clubs, and it is a hot spot for expats as well. Now, not all the causes of death are clear at the moment, but dozens of the victims suffered from cardiac arrest, and it was because there was this crowd surge. People were trampling over one another. It seems as though the crowd started pushing from the back, and it was just absolutely devastating, especially when you look at the number of people who have already been declared dead as a result. Some people were dragged onto the floor or couldn't breathe in that packed crowd. The downward angle of that narrow alley also seems to have played a role in, crushing people during these Halloween celebrations. We've got another video with more details, so let's take a quick look at that.
This is the alleyway in which the vast majority of those young people lost their lives. There's a bit of a slope, and although there's no official reason given by the authorities as to what caused this crush, a lot of eyewitnesses are saying that there were so many people packed in on the slope that as soon as some people at the top fell over, it created a bit of a domino effect, and those people at the bottom unfortunately were caught under the weight of the bodies, and that's why we saw so many casualties.
Just absolutely devastating. Now, there were limitations on how many people could attend in previous years because of COVID. Since the pandemic, this has been the first year that they've lifted those capacity limitations. I don't know if that maybe played a role as well, but Waz, I get super nervous when I'm packed in a crowd. I remember maybe the last time I was in a big crowd was when I went to Coachella in 2014. But I remember thinking to myself, I'm not gonna go in deep like in this crowd, because once something leads to panic, you can't get out, and it's so easy to be trampled over. Anyway, I feel so terrible for the victims here.
Yeah, it's scary, and what a terrible, I can't even imagine what these people were feeling, and that's just a horrible way to lose your life. And I had a similar experience at a music festival. I remember going, really deep into the front, and then this feeling after it was over that oh, okay, I really have to wait patiently here for this thing to filter out, because there's no way to escape otherwise, right? And that was a lesson. I try not to do that. If I'm in anywhere where there is a huge crowd, I try to stand off to the side, because that stuff just gets so scary when people are just packed in. next to each other, and hopefully, man, this will lead to some precautions taken whenever they do have these large gatherings, and put some safety protocols in so that folks don't get hurt like this again.
Exactly, and this is the reason why. When you go to an event, there are emergency exits. They ensure that there's an emergency pathway for people to walk through if they need to get out of the situation. Witnesses said that the streets were so densely clogged with people and slow-moving vehicles that it was practically impossible for emergency workers and ambulances to swiftly reach the alley near Hamilton Hotel, which is a major party spot in Seoul. And one other person, an official at a nonprofit organization that promotes tourism in the area, her name is Kim Mi-sung, said she performed CPR on 10 people who were unconscious. Most of them were women wearing witch outfits and other Halloween costumes. 9 of them were declared dead on the spot. And women are overrepresented in the number of victims here. I'm not sure why that is, but it does seem that young women, most of the victims were young women. So as of Sunday evening, officials said 153 people were killed and 133 additional individuals were injured. Nearly 2/3 of those killed, 97 were women. More than 80% of the dead were in their 20s and 30s, and at least 4 were teenagers. The Ministry of the Interior and Safety said the death count could further rise as 37 of the injured people were in serious condition. So it's Halloween today. Regardless of what you're doing, just stay safe, have your head on a swivel, and just pay close attention, be observant, keep your head straight and don't look down at your phone as you're like crossing the street or doing stuff like that. Just be aware of your surroundings, and if there's any potential danger, just find ways to protect yourself in case something goes wrong. I feel terrible for these people. Hopefully there's better planning moving forward, because if you're gonna host or if you're gonna have these celebrations and there's gonna be this insanely large crowd showing up in a narrow alley, you gotta have emergency exits and an emergency pathway planned that you keep clear so people can, freely move about the area without getting trampled like this. But it's a sad story. I just wanted to, share our thoughts and, everything with the victims and their family members in Korea. All right, we gotta take a quick break actually. So why don't we do that? When we come back, we'll talk about some Halloween candy fear-mongering on the Joe Rogan Experience. Dr. Phil makes an appearance as well, don't miss that. And later in the show, we'll have some fun and show you an impassioned speech by a pastor in Georgia. Come right back. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the show, our social break. YouTube members, first of all, let me just say thank you to Progressive Canuck, AKA Maple Syrup Dragon, who gifted 5 TYT memberships. Really appreciate you supporting the show and also getting the message out there. Our bonus episode today is gonna be great, so don't miss it. Vegan in Seattle also became a member, so did Brett Campbell. Michael Gonzalez says candy corn is still the worst Halloween candy, couldn't agree more, but of course John Idarola loves it because how could he not love it considering the fact that he thinks Good and Plenty's are also delicious. Michael Gonzalez, you get it, you have good taste. Jessica Smith says, hi Anna, I'm glad you're back and your hair looks amazing, thank you for that. Jorgen Johansson says, hero of the day is Pastor Bryant. We don't need a walker, we need a runner. Best I've heard in a long time. We will get to that video in the bonus episode. So if you're a member, have no fear, we're gonna talk about that. If you're not a member, just become one, tyt.com/join. Modern Relic says, Ben needs a dolphin fetus costume. That'd be hilarious. Low Crow says, Lula should have never been imprisoned. Totally agree, he was a political prisoner. Gina Salazar says, I went and voted early in Texas today, which was extremely difficult because I had major back surgery less than 2 weeks ago. It sucks that it's so difficult to vote, especially in some parts of this country, but good on you for getting through that and making sure that you cast your ballot. In California, it's super easy to vote by mail, so I've already voted. I wish it was as easy everywhere in the country. Will Tumamo says, you guys should make apparel with, of course, I'd buy it. All right, note for the Shop TYT store. My gangrene thumb says, until progressive Democrats step up to conservative Democrats, I will not step up to the ballot box. Livable wage is the first step to earning my vote. Lady Shub says, by the way, thank you for being a member for 8 months. I don't know why, but I needed Ben to be dressed up as a mad scientist. I don't control my brain. Exoteric Dragon says, love you TYT hosts, guests, staff, and community, stay strong. And thank you for being a member for 29 months. Stoned to the Bone Dragon says, sadder part is that people are agreeing with Kanye. I don't think the majority of people agree with Kanye, but he did give license to other anti-Semites to spew their anti-Semitism, and it's pretty gross. Linda Marks says, we need this win. So for once, I'm glad the average voter doesn't remember Obama wanted to cut Medicare. Yeah. Anyway, I'm so jaded by the Democratic Party. Like, we need this win, sure. I mean, they can't get anything done. They're so pathetic. I'm so fed up with them, but sure, yes, we need this win. Nicolette has a comment that I'll read later, so let's get back to the show now. Welcome back to the show, everyone. Just want to read this final comment from our YouTube member, Nicolette, who says, and by the way, Nicolette's been a YouTube member for 15 months. You can become a member too by clicking on that join button if you're watching us on YouTube. My heart goes out to the victims in South Korea. A safety tip I learned from protesting is to lift your arms up and allow the crowd to carry you like water. Stay safe. That's interesting. So something to keep in mind. But I think Waz's strategy, which was the same strategy I had, is the best one, which is try not to find yourself deep within a crowd. Try to be off to the side, in the very back. You're still able to enjoy the festivities, but it's safer. So just something to think about. All right, well, let's get to our next story because, man, the urge to believe the most outrageous fake stories by some, including the most popular podcaster in the world, is mind-numbing. So let's discuss. Last Friday, Dr. Phil was featured on the Joe Rogan Experience. And during the podcast, there was a lot of fear-mongering going on about Halloween candy. So I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth. Why don't we hear it for ourselves before Jamie squashed the nonsense? Let's watch.
And what they're doing now, Joe, is they're putting them in these pastel colors. And I think I sent you some of those, Jamie, in the pastel colors. They're making them look like these candies that the kids get. And kids are gonna see these things around and pick them up and think they're like sweet tarts or whatever and bite into them. If I was a parent, I would go to the store and buy every kind of candy I could find. And as soon as my kids came home from trick-or-treating, I would take their pumpkin and dump it into the trash and then fill it back up with candy I knew was good and hand it back to them. I wouldn't let them take a single piece of candy from trick-or-treating because you don't know what's in there.
That was always the fear, right? When we were kids, is that someone's going to sneak in.
We thought there'd be a razor blade in an apple or something.
I saw this going around, but I heard a lot of people pushing back a couple of days after this was made major headlines because they were showing.
Say no. Who's the expert?
Who's the expert? Because obviously these drug pushers are going to want to give their drugs away for free to the kids. So who's that expert, Jamie? Jamie is Rogan's producer, by the way, who had to jump in and be like, yeah, this story might not be real. Might be fake. So, Waz, I just feel like this is the Halloween story that will not die every single year. Die. No one learns.
And the thing is, Joe Rogan should know better because he's not a square. Like, he's bought drugs before. He's known drug dealers. There's no way he's ever met a drug dealer who's like, oh man, yo, the other day I messed up and gave my batch of drugs that I pay my bills with and gave it away to kids for free on Halloween. Like, that's never happened before. I don't know, like, and Dr. Phil, God bless him. That man is the definition of a square, okay? Like, it don't get more squarish than him. So he might believe this fanciful stuff about drug dealing because he's an idiot about that, right? Joe Rogan though, like, bro, you would think he would know better. Like, bro, call some drug dealers, please. And ask them, like, have you ever misplaced your drugs where you just handed your entire stash away to people for free? Couldn't re-up, couldn't pay your bills, like what?
So recently the feds, it's been happening a lot lately where they're busting drug smugglers as they're trying to smuggle drugs into the country, right? So one of the recent drug busts had to do with fentanyl that was being packaged in like Skittles packaging, right? And so some in the media thought, oh, they're trying to make fentanyl look like candy so they can give it out to kids. No, they're trying to smuggle the illicit drugs into the country. They don't do it by putting it in massive bottles that say fentanyl on it. Like, what is wrong with these reporters? Are they stupid? How do they get hired? They're trying to smuggle the drugs into the country so they can then sell it, not give it away to kids while they're trick-or-treating. Like, how does this happen? I just wanna know how these people get hired, right? So that story gets out, and then Joe Rogan of all people, who like loves to trash the media for reporting fake news or misleading people, somehow believes that narrative? That the drug dealers want to give their drugs away for free to kids? What? And like he got a little salty a little later apparently in this conversation. Dr. Phil did. He got salty after the three reviewed the article that Jamie brought up. So let's take a look at that.
I don't think they're targeting children. I think the fact that they are making these things in pastel colors make children vulnerable to picking these things up. You want to argue over the word targeting? It's dangerous. And I'm just saying, you know my grandkids, they won't be getting any candy out of that. And it's not that anywhere they're going is going to be dangerous. Giving out fentanyl to kids. It's just they don't know where they're where it's coming from.
Yeah, you're not getting it from a store.
Okay, don't let your kids trick or treat then, and then shut up. Like, is there any final things to say about it? Like, I just don't care.
There's no coherence there. I think he had a slant. He went up there with her kids and pink colored pills, and that's all he had. He had bupkis. He had nothing.
Nothing. Parents check their children's candy. Don't let your kid eat some like baked good item, some weirdo put in their basket instead of like candy. And if you see some
NDMA in there by some miracle of a chance, keep it for yourself.
Yeah, but ain't no drug dealers looking to risk it all by smuggling the drugs into the country and then give it away for free.
Let's murder some kids on Halloween with drugs. That'll be how we evade the law.
Yeah. And by the way, like maybe a little more urgency around the overdose deaths that we are seeing in the country, many of which are due to opioids and fentanyl. Let's go to the last graphic here. Overdose deaths increased 37.2% from February of 2020 to August of 2021, and were predominantly associated with synthetic opioids other than methadone, primarily fentanyl or analogs, and methamphetamine. Okay, so there is a problem with drug overdoses in the country. It hasn't gotten better. The opioid crisis didn't magically go away. Politicians love to campaign on doing something about it. They haven't done anything about it. A lot of Americans are suffering with severe, terrible drug addictions. Street drugs are increasingly laced with fentanyl. You have high school students. I mean, there's endless stories out of California of high school students buying these street drugs thinking that it's just like Xanax or some other prescription painkiller. Turns out that it's some drug cut with fentanyl. They OD on it and they die. It is a very real problem. So let's have some fear and some urgency in response to that. But just we don't need to make up stories. Okay, reality is scary enough and we're not doing a damn thing about that. But like this urge to like regurgitate the same fear-mongering stories about Halloween is amazing to me. And it's especially amazing when you hear it on Joe Rogan's podcast. All right, let's get to our final story of the hour. And it's the toilet politics that the right wing has been cultivating in this country.
It's a boy. It's a child. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good.
Are you a man or a woman?
Why does that matter?
Well, because you're in the ladies' room.
You just saw a portion of a video where a 24-year-old cisgender woman, meaning a woman who was born biologically as a woman and identifies as a woman, named J. Rose, was accosted by an anti-trans bigot who questioned whether she was a woman who belonged in the bathroom. So she heard the woman venting about transgender people and gender identities and realized that this woman was actually talking about her, J. Rose. For context, Jay had recently cut her hair very short and she was wearing a hoodie and sweats, which presumably made this woman think that J. Rose was a male. Now here's more of their interaction.
Are you a man or a woman?
Why does that matter?
Well, because you're in the ladies' room.
Okay.
And I have gotten called out several times for being in the men's room.
Okay.
And you're going to be called out for whatever you're doing. So what are you identifying as today?
I don't think that's any of your business.
Okay, it's not. So you're in the ladies' room where I think I need to identify you.
You do not need to identify me.
Is that right? How old are you?
Doesn't matter.
Really?
What were you doing in the men's bathroom, lady? Also, how about just don't talk to people? Like there needs to be a rule. If you have nothing nice to say to a complete stranger, just don't talk to them. Don't address them, don't start a discussion at all. Like the balls on this woman to go up to another person and accuse her of, first of all, like accuse her of being transgender, not knowing a damn thing about her, and then essentially tell her that she doesn't belong in the bathroom because she's not the right gender according to this woman who knows nothing about this woman's gender. Like it's just, I hate everything about politics in this country because that woman has in her brain that the biggest concern is transgender people using the ladies' room. Even if the person she's accosting isn't transgender and she has no idea about this person's gender identity. Waz, what do we need to do to get strangers to stop talking to us? That's like the number one concern.
it's crazy because, some of the other trans fear mongering that they do, like say around high school sports or college athletics or whatever, where they cherry pick these few instances where people who have transitioned are playing sports and whatever, like they throw their pity party over it. At least it's like identifiable, where it's like, okay, that's a thing that's actually happened. Can these people show me documentation of people faking trans identities and then being predators in public restrooms? Like, this is not a thing.
No, it's not.
Never happened. So like, I don't understand whether, like, this is one of those things where I'm just like, y'all just making stuff up at this point. Well, the fear mongering is so effective. Like, they don't even need proof of concept. They just start crying about stuff.
I just think it's fascinating how our government, and especially the right-wing politicians who engage in the fear-mongering about various communities and groups of people, including the transgender community, like those Republican politicians are helping the corporate world rob that lady blind. But she's convinced that her #1 problem is transgender people using the ladies' room. So much so that she went out of her way to confront someone she thinks is a child, by the way. I think you caught that, right? She thought that this was a transgender child that she had the right to confront viciously in a public bathroom. How about you mind your own goddamn business, lady? And by the way, I gotta give Jay Rose a lot of credit because she stayed calm throughout. She also refused to answer any of the questions about like, oh, what are you transgender? What's your gender identity? She didn't wanna respond to that. And she explains why. We'll get to that in just a moment. But first, the situation did escalate a little bit when Jay suggested that they wait for the police to sort this all out. So let's take a look at that.
So we'll wait for the police to come and figure it out. Okay. Let's wait for the police to come. Yeah, because this is not that way you play your. Go down on the strip and try to do it there. Don't do it up here. This is a suburb. Not allowed. Not allowed. Yeah, you think you're gonna be a woman? It's okay. And be a man? It's okay. No. Figure out your identity in your bedroom, okay? And then project it on everybody else and we'll accept it. This is not acceptable.
Let's go get security.
Yes, let's
feel
do
harassed. She's harassing me for being in the bathroom.
What's going on?
Well, I'm asking her what her identity is.
It's my girlfriend. It's a full-on woman.
It's your girlfriend, so it's a girl.
Doesn't matter.
Christ, dude.
So the security guard actually removed her from the building. They're now conducting an investigation.
God, dude.
Yeah, so the lady was removed. Luckily, the security actually did something about it. And Jay Rose said that she didn't. Here's what she says in regard to refusing to answer questions about her gender identity. We were immediately separated once the video ended because she wasn't stopping and security dealt with her. She was kicked off the property for the day pending investigation. Okay, with that said though, let's go to the next video where she explains why she refused to answer the questions.
And to the people asking why I didn't tell her what my identity was, it doesn't matter if I'm trans or not. I literally went in there to go to the bathroom, to go pee. So the fact that she followed me into the bathroom thinking that I was a trans child to harass me and bully me out of the stall is unacceptable because I was literally going to the bathroom, minding my business.
Yeah, look, she didn't owe anyone anything. She didn't owe an answer to that insane woman who's harassing her in a public bathroom at a casino. Like, I mean, I give her so much credit for staying as calm as she did. I don't know if I would have been able to maintain my patience with this insane woman. But Waz, final word on this.
I will say this though, anybody who frequents most of 99% of the casinos in America, if you know you're entering the 7th circle of hell. So sometimes, she was ready. You gotta be ready to stay ready. Yeah, right. Oh and the crowd at casinos, man, I'm telling you, it can get so dark and depressing. So she probably knew what time it was and what type of spot she's in, man.
I guess. I mean, I've been to casinos. I haven't been accosted by crazy people.
We're not talking about the win.
What are you trying to say, that I'm some elitist that only goes to the win? I've been to the Golden Nugget. Who do you think I am? Downtown Vegas is where it's at. sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, man, the shouts to this young woman though for keeping her composure for real. And just the idea that a woman shaving her head makes her a boy is just, we are just so far past gone.
And also, if you see an interaction like this, stand up for your fellow Americans. Yeah. Don't let them get harassed by lunatics like that lady. Anyway, all right, bonus episode is gonna be fantastic. We've got an incredible pastor speaking truth to power, and we also have children saying incredibly creepy things. Right on theme for Halloween, don't miss it. tyt.com/join, and we'll see you there.
Every day, the Young Turks delivers 2 hours of solid, fact-based, timely news and progressive commentary on all the day's most important stories. We keep our viewers informed while also providing perspective and insight on the news we cover, so you understand not only what's happening, but also what's happening behind the scenes, the stories behind the stories.
We play musical chairs and put these children in one awful detention facility to the next. That's what's happening at the border.
The things that got him banned, he's still spreading. So presumably, I think it's reasonable to say that if you allow him back on the website, he's going to do it again.
Any legal voter that we deem not willing to vote for my side shouldn't vote because it'll replace me that's supposed to vote for my side. That's not how voting works. That's not how democracy works.
And while many people following today's political news can get discouraged about the direction of the nation and the world, that's not us. At TYT, we're genuinely optimistic